Hello, this is the intro video for Composition 2, sections 56212 and 56215. First, welcome to the class. I'm your professor. My name is Mark Schmidt. I've been at CCM for 8 years, I believe. I was here as an adjunct for 4, and I've been here full-time for 4 years also. So I'm a full-time faculty member. If we were in the building, I would have an office that you could visit me at, but I don't. We can't, so I don't. I want to just introduce myself a little bit to you and then talk a little bit about the syllabus and the layout of the class and some of the logistics of the class. All right, so as I said, my name is Professor Mark Schmidt. I went to Rutgers University to do my BA in English and Political Science. I then went on a PhD fellowship to Emory, where I did my master's degree in literature, and I'm all but dissertation on my PhD in literature. My interests involve culture, narrative, popular culture, everything from film to music, storytelling, narrative, anything that you could, pretty much group under the heading of what we'll be studying in this class. So, let's see. Let's talk a little bit about the class just as a general way to get into a little discussion of what the class is about. So I guess the easiest thing to begin with is let's compare and contrast what a Composition 1 class and a Composition 2 class, what these classes are about. So you're in Composition 2, so I imagine you've done Composition 1. As you probably remember, Composition 1 is a class in nonfiction essays, right? So you're reading essays about the real world, about maybe hunger, poverty, gender differences, racial discrimination, prejudice, etc., those kinds of real world things, right? In Composition 2, our focus is fiction, right? So we're concerned with literature, and we're concerned with, reading some well-known works of literature that most college-educated people are familiar with. We're concerned with developing a terminology to be able to discuss this literature with other people who are interested in and who know about literature, so that we have sort of one lexicon or one vocabulary between us. In addition to that, we're also continuing, as we were doing in writing skills in Composition 1 and Composition 2 now, we're continuing to work on your writing skills, working on your ability to express yourself in grammatically correct, formal, college type of writing. Okay, so our class is broken into 3 units, basically. If you looked at the syllabus, hopefully you know this. There is a short story unit where we're looking at works by like Faulkner, Baldwin, Hemingway, Joyce Carol Oates, Kate Chopin, so some really well-known works in the short story. Then we move into a little bit shorter poetry unit, which is going to be a very general consideration of poetry. We're not going to venture into, meter and rhyme schemes and trying to measure feet and syllables and such. We're really mostly interested in sort of applying some of the terminology we'll be learning, and with getting a general idea of what these authors and speakers are saying through their work. Okay, so no complicated poetry stuff will be happening in this class. And then finally, we've got a unit in drama. We start with the Greeks. We start with some questions about why drama, why humans start doing drama, how humans start doing drama. We start with the Greeks with Oedipus by Sophocles, and then we move quickly through the Elizabethan period. I'm not requiring us to read an entire Shakespeare play. I've tried it in the past. It doesn't really work well. So I'll just be giving a quick lecture on Shakespeare, Shakespeare's identity, and the Elizabethan drama. And then finally we move into the modern drama with August Wilson and Fences, and we try to consider a little bit how the drama and the purpose and form and function of the drama changes through each of these different eras. All right, so those are the 3 units we will be sort of concerning ourselves with. It might be confusing to some people that this is a 7-week class, and it is therefore obviously shorter than a 14 or 16-week class, but it is still a 3-credit class. That's something that we have to keep in mind, that you're getting the same amount of credits that you would get for a 14-week or a 16-week class. So the workload per week is roughly double that of a 14 or 16-week class. And if you've signed up for the class thinking, oh, well, it's 7 weeks, it's less work, it's much shorter, it'll be way easier, that might not, probably is not true. Okay, so if you're looking for a class that'll just, it'll just coast through, and that, you won't really have to be super involved, this probably is not the class for you. This is all the work, with certain exceptions, that we would do in a 14 or 16 week Comp 2 class, but in a much shorter time frame. And it is completely online, unfortunately. All right, this is not my preference. I know that for many of you students, this is not your preference either, but this is what we have to do right now, which is why I also in the syllabus have tried to stress, and in my emails have tried to stress, that we need to be patient with each other. We need to be understanding with each other, and we really just need to be easy on each other. All right, we can't freak out over little things. We can't get mad at each other over technical issues or logistical issues that might arise. We're going to do the absolute best we can. All right, so I will keep that in mind with you, if you will please keep that in mind with me. Okay. All right, so our objectives: we want to introduce you to literary terminology, introduce you to the well-known works of literature. We want to introduce you to some literary criticism also, right? We have a little, you'll see somewhere in the syllabus, there is a chapter that outlines 5 or 7 of the main different types of literary criticism. So that's a good thing to know if you want to continue on with the study of literature. We're still working on drafting essays and a research paper. Let's talk about the research paper for a second. You shouldn't feel an intense amount of anxiety over this. It's a 5-page research paper, which you will need to use 4 sources in. It's not all that much different from the essays we'll be writing in class. The only real difference is that instead of you interpreting a work of literature, which is what the essays are about, or answering a question about a work of literature, the research paper requires you to integrate some other sources into the work to make a works cited page. It's not really 5 pages is the length. Our other essays will probably be, the first one probably 3 pages, the second one 4 pages, and the research paper 5 pages. All right, so don't be overly concerned about the research paper. It is required to pass the course. It's kind of like a do the best you can kind of assignment. Okay. And finally, our objective here is to provide a strong foundation for those who wish to continue in the study of literature. You don't have to love literature to be in the class. You don't have to love literature to do well in the class. You don't have to know really anything about literature to do well in the class. So there are several things on which you will be evaluated, right? It's not a class that relies solely on writing 4 or 5 papers and that's your whole grade. We've got a couple of essays. We've got a couple of open book, since we're doing it in online format, a couple of open book tests on the terminology. Some response papers, some discussion calls via Zoom, so where we can talk about anything about the class or about the works. I have yet to schedule these. I'm still working on, trying to find a schedule that'll be amenable to everybody, so stay tuned for that. The research paper, as we just talked a little bit about, is required to pass the course, all right? You can have A's on everything and not hand in the research paper. You will fail the course. You must write a research paper in this sort of a course, but I'm requiring a 5-page research paper. Rutgers requires, when I was there as an undergraduate, requires a 20-page research paper. Montclair University requires a 10-page research paper. So a a 5-page research paper is not so bad. All right, let's just see what else. I think a lot of this stuff is pretty self-explanatory, but let's just look through it. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, basically, like, we're going to be responding to each other via email and on conference calls. Please be courteous to each other. Please be courteous to me. I will be respectful and courteous to you. Please don't make fun of anybody. Don't mock anybody. We don't have to agree with one another on these calls or in, our conversations or whatever. But that doesn't mean that we're going to attack anybody or, gang up on people that we feel have different views than ours. You're here to learn from me as the professor, but unfortunately to a limited extent in this kind of a class, you're also here to learn from the other students, right? And, if you could reach out to other students, if somebody makes a comment or something that you find interesting on a call or or something that you wanted to discuss with another student in one of these lectures or videos, reach out to them. Try to make a friend. This is a social endeavor as well as it is an academic endeavor. Okay, I'm going to try to keep this short because I've been having trouble uploading these to Blackboard because of the length of them. If you've got any accessibility accommodations, please let me know that as soon as possible. We do need to talk about the policy on academic dishonesty. Every semester I have at least a few students who hand in plagiarized work. They take it off the internet. They work on a paper together with a friend, and these two students hand in papers that are virtually the same. Please work on all the assignments on your own individually. Don't paraphrase, reiterate, or my favorite, research things on Google or the internet and then just throw it in the paper without citing it. That's plagiarism. All right, you're taking other people's work, you're putting your name on it, and you're saying, this is my research, this is my effort. And that's theft, basically. You're taking somebody else's time, somebody else's work, and you're handing it in as if it were your own, right? It's deception, it's dishonest, and it's not allowed. So you will fail the course. I'll just state that with no ambiguity. If you hand in a paper and I find things in it that are not yours, I get to know your writing style and your foibles and your errors and your strengths pretty well over the course of the semester. You hand in a paper that looks a little weird to me, I'm going to research it. I'm going to, look at and see who else has made these kinds of arguments and see if this really is your work. If I find that this is not your work, you will fail the course. It doesn't matter if I find it in the last week, on the last day, or after the class has ended. I can still retroactively say, this student handed in a plagiarized paper, I just now found it. The student fails. It's not worth it. You don't want to worry about that. Plus, if you're in college and you're trying to learn to write and to read and to be more, intelligent and academic, what are you doing handing in other people's work? So just please don't do it. It's not worth it. It's insulting to me. To me, it says, the student who hands in a plagiarized paper says to me, I don't think you're intelligent, perceptive enough to catch me. And I will take that challenge any day of the week. All right, so please don't do it. Thank you. All right, so let's see. Please try to get a copy of the book. The book is Literature, an Introduction to Fiction, Poetry, Drama, and Writing. The compact 8th edition is the one we'll be using. I know that not everyone is going to be able to get the book, so what I'll be doing is posting the relevant chapters from the book on the Blackboard page under the Learning Modules, which is where you'll find most of the assignments and most of the work for the class. I'll also be posting things under supplemental materials. The syllabus is under the syllabus tab. But the book, please try to get the book. This is it. This is a picture of it, or an image of it. It's going to look a little different because mine's an instructor version. But this is the book, all right? Please try to get it. It makes it easier for everybody. And there are a lot of useful things in here, okay, that will help you beyond just the chapters. I'm also going to be posting any of the literature that we'll be reading. all of the literature is in this book. But if you don't have the book, like for instance, if you look at the Blackboard page today or yesterday, I've got A&P by John Updike on there, which is in the Reading a Story chapter. I've got A Rose for Emily by William Faulkner, which is in the Point of View chapter, right? Then we've got the character chapter with Joyce Carol Oates, Where Are You Going, Where Have You Been? You know, and so on and so forth. So every chapter that illustrates some sort of concept with terminology then has a reading that accompanies it that shows you what this thing actually looks like. So Faulkner does interesting things with narrators. There is a Faulkner story in the narrator section. Jack London and Kate Chopin do interesting things with setting. So the Kate Chopin and Jack London stories are in the setting chapter, etc., etc. Okay? Let's see. Other than that, the syllabus and the schedule are really meant to be self-explanatory. This is a class that's going to require you to set your own pace. It's going to require you to set a schedule for yourself and be diligent with that schedule. There will be ways, of course, that I will be throughout the semester checking to make sure that people are keeping up with the readings and that you're not just, you know, skimming through the chapters or watching the lectures on the chapters and not reading any of the material. But we'll get to those assignments when we come to them. All right, so let's see what else. Communications with me. This was something that I said we were going to talk about. Anything that you communicate to me or that we communicate about, especially things that are of a more private or personal nature, those will stay between myself and the student. There are, however, a few exceptions to this, and please tune in and hear this. Do not write to me in an email, in an assignment, or whatever, anything that has to do with hurting yourself or hurting other people. Those are the two things that I absolutely cannot keep private, and I have to involve someone if something like that happens, if I was to receive something like that. If you're having these thoughts, please tell me, all right, and we'll find the correct avenue of help or assistance or counseling or whatever it is that you might need. But it's better that you do that in a way where you say, hey, you know, there's something I'd like to talk to you about, and then we both know the score, rather than handing in a paper or an assignment that's got these kinds of, you know, ideation or thoughts in it, and then you're surprised when, and you feel betrayed when I have to involve somebody else in it. Imagine what would happen if you handed in a paper with, you know, suicidal ideation in it. I didn't read it for a week or so, and then the next week you're not in the class and you're removed from the roster, and I'm wondering, well, what happened to this person? Imagine how I would feel, and imagine the liability that may open the college to. All right, so please discuss those things with me if you're feeling them, but don't write about them. All right, and if you do, expect something to be someone else to be involved. All right, so I think that pretty much does it for this intro video. I hope that, you know, these videos work for you and that, you know, we can work this out. The online teaching is a new experience for me, and not something we've been exceptionally well trained for, honestly. So I'm going to do the best that I absolutely can. So let's please be patient and understanding with each other. Next, I will be posting a lecture on chapters 1 and 2, where I'll talk a little bit about the terminology and talk a little bit about the literature. Okay, so stay tuned. Thank you very much, and I hope that everybody, despite having some work to do, is having an okay summer and that you're getting through this difficult time. All right? Thank you, everybody, and I'll see you on the next lecture. And please do send me an email. If you don't have the book, send me an email. That would be good. I'll be getting at you all soon to let you know a date, well, not a date, but a time for the Zoom call. I'm thinking what we'll do is just combine. I'm teaching 2 sections of this class. I'm thinking what we'll do is just maybe have like 2 different time slots in a week, and whatever section you're in, you could call during either time, whichever works better for you. I'll try to do maybe like 1 in the afternoon, 1 in the evening, so that those of you who are working or with childcare or family obligations, etc., will find hopefully one or the other will work for you. Okay, so I'm still working on this. Please stay tuned. But welcome to the class. I expect that we're going to have an interesting and insightful semester. So, thank you, and it's great to see you all. I look forward to learning more about you. All right? Bye.